The Easter Sunday thesis identifies April 3rd, 1994 as a potential true date of Kurt Cobain's death, directly challenging the official coroner's report of April 5th. This theory is heavily supported by the missing window following Kurt's escape from the Exodus Recovery Center, where his trail goes cold except for a few disputed sightings. On that Easter Sunday, Courtney Love hired private investigator Tom Grant, citing urgent concerns about unauthorized attempts to gain cash advances on Kurt's credit card. Tom Grant believes he was hired as a goose chase to keep him away from the events that were happening so that it could seem like there was a legitimate effort to find Kurt. Theorists argue that if Kurt were alive and hiding, he would have been the one successfully using the card. The failed attempts suggest someone else was already in possession of his wallet while Kurt was already incapacitated. This timeline is further corroborated by the controversial testimony of Joe Burns, Aspirin Feast drummer and friend of Kurt Cobain, who claims to have been at the Lake Washington home at 2:00 a.m. on Easter morning. Burns alleged that he witnessed a drug circle encounter where Kurt was administered massive amounts of narcotic until he was completely non-responsive, suggesting the physical taking out of Cobain occurred in the early hours of Sunday before the scene was eventually moved and staged in the greenhouse. Some fans and theorists point specifically to the song Sunday Night 2:30 a.m. from Mark Lanegan's final years, released on his Dark Mark vs. Skeleton Joe project. The timing mentioned in that title, 2:30 a.m. on a Sunday night, parallels the early morning Easter window described by Joe Burns and other theorists. While Lanegan generally maintained a heavy silence regarding the specifics of Kurt's death, the existence of a track so specifically titled has led to speculation that it serves as a haunting, late career reflection on the events of that night. Proponents of this theory point to Kurt's documented efforts that week to contact his lawyer, Rosemary Carroll, to begin divorce proceedings and remove Courtney from his will, providing a clear motive for a controlled timeline. They argue the greenhouse was not a barricaded room, as the stool allegedly blocking the door could have easily been placed there, and the simple twist block on the door could be engaged by someone exiting. By the time the body was discovered on April 8th, the state of decomposition led several independent observers to conclude that the 3-day official window was an underestimate, and the physical evidence was much more consistent with the death occurring 5 days prior on Easter Sunday. Together, these points suggest that the period between April 2nd and April 3rd was the actual vacuum where the intervention took place long before the public search and the official police timeline began. Given the fact that there's so many disputed details, maybe it's time to reopen the Kurt Cobain death investigation and determine whether or not it was actually a suicide and that it might have been potentially a homicide.